Welcome into the Irish NFL show, Week 7 instant reaction, and another fantastic evening of action. Some surprising results to get through. Great delight to have Shane Brennan join me on the late night shift, shall we call it? Shane, it's great to have you on board.
Yeah, it's not quite David Letterman and Jay Leno on the late shift, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, it's always very hard to I suppose take time out to kind of look at all the results and try and capture some of the key points from the game when you're literally coming on as the last game finishes up, which was the Broncos, obviously just closing out a close one against the Packers. But we're going to start with your Patriots because, yes, I believe you watched the show on Thursday and none of us gave the Patriots any chance. So I did call out on the show that the Bills' offense has been really stuttering. We saw it in London. We saw it there last week against the Giants. And again, for large parts, they didn't really do a lot in the Patriots. Has been checked. But Mac Jones looked very, very happy at the end. It looked like a man who had a lot of pressure on his shoulders and he was relieved to get the win. Your initial reactions to that one tonight?
Well, like you said, he did have a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but I think the difference today was he didn't have as much pressure to deal with on the field. The offensive line was much better from the Patriots, and it was just brilliant to see. There was a moment there, I think, when the Patriots lost the ball and the Bills started to come back into it and eventually took a lead. We were like, oh, look, here's the Patriots after finding another way to lose a game. And for me, that's what I felt. I was like, oh, we found another way to lose rather than the Bills found another way to win. But big difference today is when Mac Jones got the ball, there was confidence, there was time, there was an offensive plan. Whenever the ball was handed off to Ezekiel Elliott, he managed to carry and do something. Receiving was much better from Kendrick Bourne and a few of the other guys as well. It's just all around a much, much better performance than the Patriots. And I didn't think the Patriots really had much of a chance here. I thought the Bills would go back to playing the standard that they were against the Dolphins a couple of weeks ago. Um, I thought that the Patriots would keep it close, but would lose the same as we did in Las Vegas a couple of weeks back. So it's a tremendous, tremendous victory, and I'm quite pleased to see it. Whether on the Bill side of the ball, I'm not quite sure how they're going to approach this now, because it was a very close game. It's one of those things where I think there was two teams playing at a relatively high quality, but Josh Allen threw that pick very early on in the game when the Patriots ended up building momentum to go 10-0 up, which meant that I think for only for 2 of the last 3 minutes, the Patriots were ahead of the game. You meant that the Bills were chasing the game all the time in Foxborough, which is not an easy thing to do against any Patriots team, even the 2023 Patriots. Josh Allen again, he's a bit of a mercurial character where he can either be fantastic or he can every now and again he can just be a little bit sloppy when he tries a little bit too hard to get too many yards, and that's what happened in the first quarter there today, and it just gave the Patriots some momentum to keep building on. I think that pick was really a crucial play at the start of the game, because the Patriots this season, what they've done is they've been terrible at the start and they've been the one chasing the game. When the Patriots, this is the first time I think this season where the Patriots have been up for most of the game and have had the opponents chase us, and much better mentality in that position. Mac Jones seems to be much more confident and actually leading his team a bit better in that position as well. So I think if the Bills were managed to find a way to get momentum earlier in that game and to have the Patriots chasing again, that would have been a very different game. But it's not. That early pick by Josh Allen was crucial, and I just wonder whether the Bills are still going to be blaming London for this, because they seem to be blaming London for all of their other slowdowns after their fantastic win against the Dolphins. And considering what we see from other teams across the league between the Jags and the Ravens, that excuse is insane, and I'm not quite sure what the Bills need to do differently now.
No, I agree with you. Like last week, there was numerous narratives as to why the Bills played so poorly against the Giants on Sunday Night Football, rather than acknowledging a really strong defensive performance by the Giants last week. They kind of put it down to kind of the slowness of coming back from London. I touched on it earlier in the week, but sure, the Jags went to put the hammer down on the Colts last Sunday. Haven't been in London for 2 weeks. And we've seen the Ravens, and we're going to come to them in a couple of minutes, put the hammer down on the Lions today. Only haven't played in London last week. You're right when you said, like, about the Patriots in terms of, oh, here we go again scenario, because they're up by 2 scores and they managed to allow the Bills to come back. Bills undeservedly, in my opinion, get the lead. But I think the difference is teams are moving the ball on the Bills defense now. We saw the Jags do it. We saw the Giants do it last week. Couldn't punch it in. But the Patriots could punch it in today. And obviously Gesicki gets the late winner. Look, it's well deserved. And it's a big one for Belichick. Obviously the stats are out there tonight in terms of significance of the win, but ultimately just to keep this team on the straight and narrow because we spoke, whether we're recording or whether we're not, about the fact that it looked like the season was being derailed very quickly, and like they've got over the hump and it's a big divisional win. So certainly one that everybody will be wondering tomorrow how this has come to pass. But again, Belichick has a way when the speculation is that he's not going to be there next season, then it comes out today he signed the contract, he gets the big win. So a huge win for the Patriots in in the AFC East clash. We're going to move on to another AFC clash, and that's the Browns going into the Colts. I really like this new Colts snazzy gear which they're wearing tonight. Was something different about it. And Gardner Minshew had a fantastic game. And I feel really unjust for the Colts. They come out the wrong side of this game, and it's a bit of a strange one because like there was so many strong points in the game where the Browns made some really great plays on defense, and every time they did it, you think, okay, here we go now. The Browns defense is going to get on top, and the Colts kept rebounding with these big marquee plays, getting the big touchdowns. Deshaun Watson's out of the game, and then in fact, they're saying Deshaun Watson could have came back into the game, and they held him off. They held him off when it looked like he could play recently. Something's not right there, but look, the Browns have got the win. Me predominantly because of their defense, albeit they gave up high points. But the talking point tomorrow and throughout the course of the week is going to be the pass interference towards the end of the game, which looked like a very uncatchable ball, and yet they call pass interference. I don't think anybody has a narrative as to why it was called. It was a terrible decision.
Yeah, it did seem a little bit like I think there was a lot of talk on Twitter that the Colts were robbed, and it did seem a bit deflating because the game was just completely over and back. What was the final score? 38-39. That the Browns ended up winning, and like it's when it's a game like that, and it's just pure chaos in terms of the constant forward and back and interceptions and all that kind of thing. It's really difficult, and it's annoying when calls like that kind of take the air out of the game of what was just a brilliant game of football. So for that reason, I think we should be talking about the Browns defense, and these guys. No, I mean, whatever about being able to stop the 49ers that they did, people will say, oh, well, you it's a one-off thing. Yeah, against the Colts today, I thought Gardner Minshew and the Colts were excellent. Quite a lot of what they put together just worked straight away. I mean, they handed off the ball to Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor quite a lot, got plenty of yards. Gardner Minshew passed for over 300 yards, but the Browns did just enough to keep them to let their offense stay in the game and keep building on whenever they could. So like it's annoying with the Browns. They're slightly reminiscent of last year's Lions, where you mightn't necessarily ever back them to win, but you don't want to face them because you just don't know what it is that they're gonna come up with, particularly on defense, and how they're gonna stop you in those crucial situational points of the game.
Yeah, let's be fair to the Browns. Like we're caught with bad refereeing decisions, but this team hadn't done a lot on offense of late. We saw last weekend struggles against a really strong 49ers team, but they put up 39 points this week, like without their marquee quarterback for large parts of the game. So look, they have to win this game because we're going to come on to the Ravens now. The Ravens obviously haven't had their bye week because you had to move to 5-2 with a really comprehensive win over the Lions, 38-6, certainly putting a marker down in the division and in the AFC. A lot of people were on the Lions to win this game this week. I think Colin was one who picked them. I think me and Connor went Ravens. I just thought the Ravens' experience and defensively they'd find a way to navigate a victory. I didn't certainly think it would be in this manner. To be up 28-0 in the middle of the second quarter was really comprehensive and really kind of impressive. Again, Lamar, like we saw him in London last week, and there was no ill effect from that trip. Anyway, he came out today, he was lights out immediately.
Yeah, I've almost, I think it's kind of gotten juiced up on me. He's a little bit better, probably from giving high fives to all the Irish fans in Stansted Airport coming back late at night when we were all stuck waiting for Ryanair. But now, in fairness to Lamar Jackson, 3 passing touchdowns? I think it wasn't even about confidence about what he's able to do. I really think that loss in Pittsburgh has galvanized the Ravens offense more than we think, because pretty much every pass that I looked at, I haven't got the stats in front of me, every time that Lamar threw the ball, somebody caught it. It wasn't dropped, it wasn't fumbled. They kept, I don't know whether it's whatever way they've designed it, or they've just really gotten stickier gloves, but they're not dropping passes. They're making use of every play they have. And I mean, to blow the Detroit Lions out is just incredible, and the manner in which they did it is crazy. And as much as people always talk about whenever we're talking about Super Bowl contenders, we talk about the Chiefs, we talk about the Bills and the Dolphins, and we talk about the big hitters in the NFC. I really think that if Lamar is healthy, which is obviously the always the biggest question mark over any Ravens season. But if Lamar stays healthy, there's no reason the Ravens can't do it. They just need to keep their receivers catching the ball and making yards after catch, which was I think Gus Edwards had one reception with 80, like it was like an 80-yard play.
82 yards, 82 yarder.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was just they're really getting as much value out of their offense as possible. It's not about let's just getting 4-yard runs or let's just passing for let's just try to get a catch for 10 or 12. They're getting as much out of it as possible. That's what it was today. It was really a statement of this is what we can do, and letting the brushing the Detroit defense by, and it was fantastically comprehensive from the Ravens. And I'll be looking to talk about the Ravens for later on during the week, but it's just they really are showing their true offensive potential today.
Yeah, I know you've got a good Ravens podcast ahead of you this week, which we're all looking forward to listening. But yeah, you touched on it there. It was more the comprehensive offensive play around the fact that everybody got involved. Like Odell Beckham was getting involved. Zay Flowers is obviously the marquee player now, arguably going to be the number one wide receiver very quickly. Bateman got involved, and obviously you touched on the long reception from Edwards, 82 yards, and Lamar goes in again, the opening touchdown, punch another one in. Be interesting to see how the Lions react off this. The one thing I would say with the Lions in this game is Gibbs, the running back, the rookie, came back from injury and he had a really bright game, albeit they've gone down heavily. And you can gradually see he's starting to kind of take all, and they're going to need him with Montgomery out for a period of time. So interesting to see how they react next week. The Chiefs, obviously in the later window, the 9 o'clock slot, a lot of people were high on the Chargers in this one and felt the Chargers would go in and give them a real game. And in fairness, they did. I don't think the score is a fair reflection of how it played out. 31-17 in the end. The Chiefs pulling away with a late touchdown in the end. And there was some timely miscues again by the Chargers. It looked like when they're in good position to score, taking sacks, interceptions, quite a few turnovers in the game. But the Chiefs, again, like they put up 31 points in the first half. There was a tweet that we put out at halftime. Nine receptions for 157 yards and a touchdown by Kelsey in the first half. Now, dropped off slightly in the second half. The numbers were surreal. It was very much a crapshoot type of game. You go up score, we'll go up and score. But ultimately, I think we all inevitably knew what would happen in the end. Come the fourth quarter, the Chiefs would find a way to pull away. And I'd argue that they're probably pulling away and winning this division now, having beaten the Chargers tonight. I mean, they're comprehensively in this league. There's no one really in this division that can challenge them.
No, and obviously the big talking point before the season, I was talking about it during the week as well, is that if there's somebody going to challenge the Chiefs and really push them close, it's going to have to be the Chargers because they're the only ones really with the talent to do it. But on defense, you just don't trust these guys to get the plays and to make the stops when they really need to. I mean, we can talk about how great Patrick Mahomes did. I think he passed for over 400 yards. He was like 4 touchdowns and ridiculous statistics, but. And the Chargers have the offense to go into Arrowhead and do things. I know that they didn't score in the second half, but I really think that the defense needs further shoring up in Los Angeles if the Chargers are going to properly stick it up to the Chiefs. I mean, they're sitting at 2-4. They're way too talented of a offense and a team to be sitting at that record, and it's simply because they cannot make the stops when they need to. There's a couple of times there against the Chiefs in the first half where you're just waiting for the pressure, waiting for the right play. And I just don't think they have the defensive playmakers to make the stops at the right time, particularly when it comes to big pressure games in Arrowhead like that. I mean, it's bad enough not having a really strong home field advantage, which the Los Angeles teams suffer from. But when you're playing away, you need to have some form of steel to be able to make a big stop. And we just didn't see that from the Chargers defense. In fairness to the Chiefs, I thought everyone played well. There was that call with I think it was a call in the second half with Pacheco as to whether or not he was down, and if he lost the ball, the Chargers could have got it and kept this. I think they were only at that point. I think for most of the second half, the Chargers were only 1 touchdown behind, so they were chasing. They had plenty of opportunities to keep it going, but in the end, the Chiefs ended up pulling away. And like I said, the scoreline probably doesn't fully reflect how close the game was. It was a much closer clash than that, but I think it's a simple case that in the first half, the Chargers need to show better planning and being able to make more stops than they did. That's what's holding them back.
Yeah, this is the thing with the Chargers defense, just so up and down. And you look at the numbers, and they're off the charts from Mahomes and Kelsey and various other players offensively today. You wonder, is this the Chiefs team gradually getting back to what we're used to seeing, or is it the case they come up against a defense that just can't handle high expansive offenses? You touched on the factor of playing in SoFi, and we saw it there was very evident in the game later on this evening, being played at the same time, which was the Steelers going in and beating the Rams. And I picked the Steelers on Thursday because I felt the stadium would be like a home game. It would be like Heinz Field, and it was very much like that. But the Rams, again, they shot themselves in the foot at times. And look, people were tomorrow will be talking about that fourth down play by Kenny Pickett, which didn't look like a first down, but ultimately that game tonight, Pickett to Pickens, time and time again, was the kind of, for me, that was the reason he won, that connection. And once Pickett doesn't do a lot, and he kind of, I suppose the jury's still out on him. It's fair to say whether he's at that level to be a quarterback in the league. He does have that connection, and ultimately, when it comes to the crunch, he makes that big play. Pickens, in particular, finds the ways to get open.
Yeah, sorry, you mentioned that fourth down play. What I actually thought was unusual is that this is the one time where I thought that the Steelers were sort of falling to the Rams' home field advantage, because you saw Kenny or Pickens try to get his foot into that turf, but you couldn't really get it in. So I didn't think he had enough power to get the first down, but then the chains come out and it turns out the Steelers got it by an inch. But like I said, it was in all the Steelers fans who went to Los Angeles. I don't know how many are still singing "Fire Matt Canada." It's amazing. Even when you were watching the TV coverage, they seem to have a camera always trained on him. But in fairness, they found a way to score 20. What was it, 24 points, and and it's and I think there was what stood out for me more than anything else is the fact that they got the rushing game kind of.
Warren and Harris together today. When you get the two of them together, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they might necessarily get the big yards, but they just keep things moving in a way that, because Kenny Pickett is good, and it's when he has that really good connection to Pickens, and it's nice that he has that one guy you can trust on. But again, if that, you can't have a one-dimensional offense where it's always Pickett to Pickens. So being able to have those two running backs to call on was really keen to just keep them motoring so that Pickett could find Pickens or find a pass.
Deontay Johnson obviously was back tonight from injury. He had a big 29-yard run in the second half, and there was other players getting involved. But ultimately, it is down to it's the Pickens show right now, and they get over the line in this one, and they have to be bearing in mind. I think the Bengals are the team that are going to feel really kind of downbeat this weekend. They don't play; they're on the bye week, and every team within the division finds a way to navigate victories. I wouldn't have thought they would have looked at that this weekend, thinking everybody within the AFC North is going to win. So big weekend for all those teams. A couple of games I'm going to call out, not so much to get into, because you touched on it on the group. You said, will we get the full house? And we did. I mean, the Broncos win, the Giants win, the Patriots win, and the Bears win. And I'm not sure which one of those is the most surprising result.
It seems like all of the 1-5 club got a victory except for the Arizona Cardinals, which is somewhat not surprising. But I mean, what were the odds on the Bears, Patriots, Broncos, and Giants all winning today? Well, it must have been ridiculous.
Well, they were tight enough lines. Like, not that we're going to get too heavy in the bet last bit, but most of those games were on +2, -2 thereabouts. So you wouldn't have got a massive price. Like, it was so precarious in the lines that the bookies were unsure. The Packers were -1. The Giants were +2. The Bears were +2 going into the game. And who did we leave off? I think that's of the Patriots. The Patriots were the biggest one in the lot. They were the biggest price to win. They were +7.5 on terms of the spread. But look, they've all got over 9, and they all needed that. Just going to wrap up one interesting game. That's the NFC South, because a lot of people were on the Bucs, and everybody felt the Bucs would find a way to navigate a victory this evening against the Falcons. And Bijan Robinson didn't replay. He's obviously down. They're saying he has an illness and he couldn't play. And for large parts of that game, the Falcons were doing everything in their power to give the Bucs the game. You had Ritter running in for a touchdown. He looked like he was running in for the second touchdown. Initially, it was given as a touchdown to be reviewed, and it turns out he was, caught from behind. The ball goes out, and it's a touchback. Baker Mayfield drives down. They only take a field goal. Look, it's a walk-off victory for the Falcons. But again, going into this, when I picked the Falcons, I just thought they were a better all-around team. But are we seeing that the Bucs are gradually going to revert back to what we thought they'd be, which is a reasonably good team to be competitive, but ultimately won't win many games? Or is that just one that got away? Because people will say the Falcons should have that one done and dusted a long time ago.
I think the problem with the Buccaneers is they tried to pass it way too much, and I think they were forcing it a little bit. I think, well, I don't know whether it was a home field thing or whether it's the fact that Baker Mayfield has been performing relatively well the last 2 weeks, but whenever they had the ball and they needed to get it, they just felt like they were forcing the aerial game when they really didn't need to. And I think that was the main difference. Drake London, by the way, I thought had a brilliant game for the Falcons. He made a couple of key plays, and he partly what kept them in it to end up snatching the win late in the second half. But with the Buccaneers, do I see them regressing too much? Probably not. We'll have to see a couple of weeks as to whether they sort of revert back to the pack that we were expecting. I still think that when they come up against their other NFC South foes, they'll still be in a really good chance. I think they can put it up to the Saints, and they can go to Atlanta and get a win later in the season. So I don't think I wouldn't be stressing too much if I was a Buccaneers fan just yet. But what I would want to see on offense in particular is just being able to run the ball. Like Rashad White, what didn't really do, I don't really think that did much today. We were mentioned there how it was Bijan Robinson was the one that was missing for the Falcons, but it felt like the Buccaneers were the one that were missing the top rushing player. And it's that kind of one-dimensional forced offense didn't work for the Buccaneers today.
Yeah, just to quickly touch on the Giants game. 14-7, no touchdowns or no scores for the Giants in the second half, and they gave away a touchdown off a muffed punt. But defensively, like this, Sam Howell is going to get beaten up. And like we joked on Thursday, like 34 sacks going against 33 sacks in terms of the two teams, and it was just evident again how poor this Commanders' offensive line is. And I mean, they got to him time and time again, and there was not just about the sacks, more so some of the hits and stuff. So I kind of feel for him. It's like he's doing well, but like, how long can you play behind an offensive line in his first year in the league? It's a big win for the Giants with the Jets coming. Well, I wouldn't say coming to town because they're probably MetLife, but a big game next weekend because you never know. All of a sudden, things quickly change in the NFL when you get a victory and you start looking. The last games to close out, we didn't mention it. We touched on it briefly. Was the Cardinals, obviously 1-5, now gone 1-6. They lose against the Seattle game. It was a bit of a scrappy game because Seattle scored a field goal late on to go 20-10 up. But I expected more from Seattle in that game. I know Metcalf was out injured and they lost a couple of other players, but just the cohesion doesn't seem to be there. There was a poor interception by Geno Smith. They're trotting along. They're nice to look like a team that could go to the playoffs, but they're not inspiring me the way I thought this team was going to be lights out at times this season. I thought in this game particularly, I thought they'd win comfortably.
Yeah, they were very beatable tonight. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that I think when the Cardinals in the red zone, they had a really good chance, but it was a high snap, so they ended up losing loads of yards on that. And then they had a chance to go for a field goal at a time when I think they were only 7 points behind at the time.
It would have made it 17-13, and the holder doesn't do the laces correct.
Yeah, so if the Cardinals were in any way competent, like they were against the Giants and the Cowboys, they could have had there was a very easy path to win for it. And I'm not saying that to knock the Cardinals down. I just think that the Seahawks just didn't show enough for me to make me think, oh, this is a team that means business. I mean, there was a couple of times where I just thought they just seemed a bit unimaginative on offense, and on defense they did what they needed to do. I don't really think they're necessarily lacking too much there, but in terms of what they're able to do with the ball, I didn't see too much that was lights out. But then again, in the NFL, you can't play 17 games and be wonderful all 17. And what matters is that you get the win. And in fairness to Seattle, they managed to find a way to get the win, but they were beatable today. If that was a Rams or 49ers in the NFC West, they would have had them for lunch. It was just a shame that the Cardinals couldn't put it together.
Yeah, the Rams did beat them week 1 in Seattle, but it was very much a defensive performance for the Seahawks that got them over the line as opposed to offense. Kenneth Walker didn't really have the kind of game which we saw even last week in Cincinnati. But look, as you said, they got over the line. Big win for them to keep going. And obviously, we'll see what the 49ers do tomorrow night on Monday Night Football against the Vikings. The later game this evening, obviously, is a big one in many ways. With the Bills losing, you're going to have Miami now looking to kind of really extend their lead in the division to 2 games. If they were to get that one over the line in Philadelphia, it would be a huge step in the right direction for this team. And then obviously you got the Eagles looking to rebound off last week's loss. Where do you see this one being won and lost? It's a really enticing game to stay up for.
Yeah, it's probably the best matchup you could probably come up with in the NFL at the moment, barring maybe the 49ers playing the Dolphins. It's just it really is going to be mad. I'm not. Where do I see it being won or lost? Whether the Dolphins offense can still be explosive, because it's great being able to do it against the Broncos. It's great being able to do a job up in Foxborough on Monday Night Football or was it Sunday Night Football early in the season. But when you come up to allowed Lincoln, was it Lincoln Bank or Lincoln Field or whatever it's called up in Philadelphia, against that defense, it's speed. It doesn't always work for everything. You need strength. You need to be able to run. You need to be able to grind out 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 3s. That's where the Dolphins really need to keep things going. I think they can do it though. If I was to pick now, I think the Dolphins will get a tight win in this one.
By the time people listen to this in the morning or even later on this evening, they'll know the result and they'll be saying they went completely wrong there. Everybody went for the Dolphins on the group the other day on the
Wow,
shows.
Jenny,
So
Matt,
usually what happens
usually what
then
happens
is
then is I'm
yeah,
actually I'm gonna go around now and stick a fiver on the Eagles. That might be
yeah,
the
I think
yeah.
that's the plan. Right, that is our instant reaction to week 7 on Sunday night. Obviously, next weekend is a bank holiday weekend, so we'll be able to record it a little bit earlier and get it out. But Shane, really appreciative of your time and another great evening of NFL.